Julie Kelly is a remarkable person. Has a legal background, fantastic journalist. She has been dogged in following January 6th and what's been going on. Julie Kelly, welcome. The Proud Boys have been watching on TV and elsewhere. They talk about convictions here. 4 out of 5 of them. What were they convicted of, and what exactly occurred at this trial?
Well, Mark, again, thank you so much for your kind words covering my work and getting this important information out to your listeners. This is really a travesty of justice. 4 out of 5 of the Proud Boys were convicted of seditious conspiracy, which is a charge tantamount to treason. They were also convicted of other conspiracy counts, obstruction of an official proceeding. They really committed no violence. They weren't accused of assaulting police officers. Only one was accused of destroying government property. But the important part of this trial, 4-month trial, really 2-year case, where Judge Tim Kelly acted as an extra lawyer for the prosecution, repeatedly denying defense motions.
By the way, let me stop you there. This guy has done this a lot. He's done this.
Yep.
He sort of did this in the case with Bannon, I believe. And he's done it in other cases, too, but I could be wrong about that. I know there's another case where he kept giving the prosecution everything they wanted. Maybe that's the case with Mark Elias's partner. I'm just trying to remember which case, but I remember that name, and I remember thinking, wow, this guy is a Department of Justice judge.
He is, Mark, and here's the problem. Not only is he a former Department of Justice official, he worked for years for the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office, which is the exact same office Matthew Graves now, who is prosecuting and handling every January 6th case. And there are reports that he used to work for one of the prosecutors who's sort of overseeing this, Jocelyn Valentine, who you might remember was also involved in the Mike Flynn prosecution. No. So this is the epitome of the swamp. They are all in cahoots. His wife also works for Muriel Bowser, who is the D.C. mayor. He never should have handled...
Julie, I knew. You know, when they say this guy's appointed by Trump, I was explaining how deals are made at the district court level for the appointment of these people. That sometimes a Republican president says, all right, you guys get 1, but I get 2. Now let's get them through the Senate. I saw this through the Reagan administration. Democrats have done it too. This is not really a Trump guy. This is just a hack prosecutorial bureaucrat, part of the Washington, D.C. situation. And they keep throwing Trump's name around. Go ahead.
That's exactly right. But he has been a D.C. fixture, especially Department of Justice, for decades. He also worked for Charles Grassley on the Judiciary Committee. So he's very tuned into the establishment Republicans, I would say, and he really showed his true colors in this trial. I've written extensively my works at amgreatness.com. This is why, though, Mark, I will say the upside is that these verdicts are ripe for appeal for many reasons. I thought his most egregious move, and you will understand this as an attorney, is that he told the defense attorneys they had to pre-vet questions related to numerous FBI informants in this case with the government. So they had to tell prosecutors what they were going to ask witnesses, i.e. FBI agents, about running multiple FBI informants into this group months before and on January 6th. I'm not an attorney. I'm sure you would find that. Because he was part of covering up with the government.
No. But what is the legal? But he's not going to say he is. What conceivable legal basis would there be to protect them? I don't know.
Yes, to protect them. He also, when one of the members of the defense team uncovered messages between FBI agents talking about doctoring reports, deleting evidence, and surveilling attorney-client communications for one of the defendants. He stepped in, stopped the cross-examination of this FBI agent, let the DOJ come back with their excuses as to why these messages had been concealed and accidentally uncovered by a member of the defense team, and bought into the Justice Department's excuses, which I'm sure you will be surprised to hear they claimed were classified information, classified communications. This is the sort of travesty that was happening in this trial before a D.C. jury, very biased D.C. jury, by the way, coming back with convictions on the extremely rare charge of seditious conspiracy for four.
That is amazing. I want people to understand that law was used to prosecute people during the Civil War era.
That's right.
Not today. And let me ask you this. Did I read properly somewhere, maybe it was your piece, that he also allowed in closing arguments the government to play a video of Donald Trump making statements?
It was, so the comment by Donald Trump in the September 2020 presidential debate, when he was goaded by Joe Biden and Chris Wallace to condemn white supremacist militia groups, Joe Biden mentioned the Proud Boys, so Donald Trump said, okay, Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. That clip was played multiple times during the trial, and it was the first clip that Assistant U.S. Attorney Connor Mulrow played during closing arguments last Monday. I was in the courtroom to hear it. Not a clip of the Proud Boys committing violence or trying to overthrow the government that day. That was the first clip that they played, which is why these convictions pose such a grave legal threat to Donald Trump. This is the roadmap to charge Donald Trump with the same offenses, including seditious conspiracy, obstruction, conspiracy, regular conspiracy, and other counts, which is...
But let me just get this straight here.
Counsel's headed.
Your point, this is very important for the public to understand.
Mm-hmm.
A comment during a national debate is played during a criminal prosecution in which people can lose their liberty. And the purpose of that is to try and show some kind of causation, some relationship between that statement and what the Proud Boys did or didn't do. That is so outrageous. It is unbelievable to me. When I read that, I said, are you kidding me? How the hell do you get away with that? Now, the problem with the circuit court is they loaded that damn circuit court up with a bunch of Democrats, too, didn't they?
They did. And we can get into this another time. While this trial was going on, there was what one judge on the circuit court called a splintered ruling about the most common felony used against January 6ers, which is obstruction of an official proceeding, this 1512C2, which is a post-Enron evidence witness tampering law. The DOJ has also weaponized that statute against January 6ers. So this was a crazy trial.
So, Julie Kelly, they use an Enron-related statute on obstruction. They use a Civil War-related statute on seditious conspiracy. So they really were shooting for the moon. They got the moon. They knew they would have a jury and a judge that would help them. And you're right. They're laying the foundation for Donald Trump or anybody else they want to go after here. This is just unbelievable to me. And not a single judge has stopped any of this, have they?
The only judge who has stopped the obstruction of an official proceeding felony is Carl Nichols, also a Trump-appointed judge. And this is how 1512C2 obstruction got to the appellate court, this splintered ruling, which did not make a lot of sense. That's not the final word on it. But he is the only judge, Mark. 12 other D.C. District Court judges thought that this obstruction felony, which was intended, as we just said, post-Enron, would apply to January 6th protesters, including people who committed no other violent crime. The way that DOJ is using this, they are adding this to more than 300 cases to add felony counts to otherwise mostly misdemeanor cases to turn Trump supporters into felons. This is the charge that Jacob Chansley, after 300 some odd days in solitary confinement, finally pleaded guilty to and got sentenced to 41 months in prison by Royce Lamberth, a Reagan-appointed judge. This is how they're weaponizing
I know Royce
it.
Lamberth.
Now they're doing.
I'm very disappointed. Very.
He should
there?
really retire.
Yeah.
Yes, he should really retire after what he did to Jacob Chansley. Not only, and he kept him in pretrial detention, Mark. Jacob Chansley wasn't accused of another violent crime. Royce Lamberth kept him in jail strictly on that count. Other judges have done the same. Timothy McFadden did it in the Tim Hale case. I have numerous examples of judges denying bail to people accused of obstruction of an official proceeding, keeping them in jail until they are tortured into a plea deal or go before a DC jury and are immediately convicted.
These judges in that courthouse, and I'm very familiar with that courthouse, Julie, there's a big conference room where, if they choose to, they all sit down and eat lunch together. Are you aware of this?
I can only imagine.
And, I mean, they don't have to, but they typically do. There's a cafeteria in there. They can bring their own lunch if they want. And they discuss their cases, which they're free to do. But what happens is, like any other cloistered group, if they want to get along and so forth, they can basically conduct themselves in a similar way. And so that's what's happening here. And most of them are former federal prosecutors out of the Department of Justice, aren't they?
Yes,
almost
they
all
are.
of them.
Almost all of them. There are a few who came from the public defender's office, but almost all of them, Mark, have some ties to the Department of Justice, including the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office, now run by Matthew Graves, a Biden campaign advisor, a Biden appointee, who's handling all of these cases. And so, you know, they're working with former colleagues or one-time colleagues or an office that I'm sure they have a lot of loyalty to. And so that's why you have someone like Tim Kelly, who has denied, I can't even tell you how many defense motions, but during the trial, almost uniformly, overrode or did not allow defense objections, overruled defense objections while sustaining government objections. This was such a rigged trial. But again, because I think that Judge Kelly and these prosecutors certainly understand the stakes, and that is this is only creating the roadmap for Special Counsel Jack Smith to bring the same charges against Donald Trump. Donald Trump was a key figure in this trial, not just the clip that was shown repeatedly about the debate, but the conspiracy, Mark, that the government said the Proud Boys started on December 19th of 2020. That is when Donald Trump first tweeted about January 6th, said, "Come to D.C., will be wild." This is how prosecutors created this case. And the idea that Donald Trump was not a part of this prosecution is complete folly. This is why they brought these charges, kept these men in pretrial detention for 2 years, allowed this biased jury to handle this trial. And now you could see the glee on the left. You could see the glee by Democrats. Adam Schiff today tweeted suggesting that these verdicts will now lead to Donald Trump.
And the other thing is, when you have cases like this, they're going through people's social media. So if you put something on there, let's go to Washington and fight this, blah, blah, blah. I assume that showed up in court, too, and they were trying to show, see this? They were trying to overthrow the government, right?
Almost all of the evidence is gleaned from text messages or posts in encrypted chats and on Parler. Who tries to overthrow the government and they put it on Parler? Who tries to overthrow the government, Mark, and they assemble at the Washington Monument and they stop at food trucks on their way to the Capitol? Who tries to overthrow the government in the case of Ethan Nordine, who walked through open doors with Capitol Police standing right there? Who tries to overthrow the government by force and brings no weapons? This is the case against the Proud Boys. None of it matters. 2 years I've been following these, not trials, but the hearings and then the trials that started last March. I understand exactly what these prosecutors are capable of, and more importantly, what these judges are allowing to happen in these courtrooms, which is why I feel absolutely certain that when they bring indictments, Jack Smith brings indictments against Donald Trump, they will move forward. A judge will deny change of venue motions, just like every single judge has done in every single case here. None of these trials should be happening in Washington, D.C. They will deny any change of venue for Donald Trump, and they will allow these indictments to move forward. And even more shockingly, Mark, if he is charged with seditious conspiracy or even obstruction, there is now precedence to keep a defendant charged with those crimes under pretrial detention orders, meaning denying bail. And I would put nothing past these judges and these prosecutors to do the same to Donald Trump.
And here we are in the middle of an election. An ex-president seeking to be president again. And the special counsel is appointed by the Attorney General. This is how you know the fix is in. Not to investigate his boss, which is why you have a special counsel in appearance of a conflict, but to investigate his opponent. And that tells you that the fix is in, that they picked this guy, Jack Smith, that it's all happening in Washington, D.C. It tells you the fix is in. And these are horrendous times, absolutely horrendous times. The law really is being turned inside out. And Julie Kelly, I want to thank you for everything. Obviously, you'll stay on this. But even when they appeal, that doesn't mean they're going to be out of prison. They could be sitting in prison during the course of the appeal, correct?
Well, they absolutely will, and sentencing won't be until the end of the year. And as you know, Mark, they can't even appeal until they're sentenced. And these crimes carry 20-year maximum prison sentences for each of these conspiracy charges.
So they're all in prison now?
They have been in prison, 4 of them, since winter of 2021, denied release by Tim Kelly, even though 3 of them are veterans. Joe Biggs is a Purple Heart veteran. They have no criminal record, and they were not charged with violent crimes. Tim Kelly has kept them in jail, indefinite incarceration, for almost 2 years before their trial began in January of this year. This is how inhumane this man is. And this is why he was invested in guilty verdicts. He wanted to justify what he did to these men. So that's why he acted on behalf of the government, because he's kept them cruelly, inhumanely, unconstitutionally in jail for 2 years before this trial started. That's why he wanted to justify what he did. It's
amazing in a sickening way. And you could see how they pulled certain stunts and did certain things to Paul Manafort and Roger Stone in that D.C. district too. You know, my own view is the Republicans need to break up that judicial district. They need cases that involve individuals in an administration to take place outside of the District of Columbia, just because it's way too partisan. And there's no way a Republican can get a fair break, or anybody associated with Trump, or anybody who shows up in a clip that they try to associate with Trump and these individuals who are on trial. And it's really just sickening to me. All right, Julie Kelly, I want to thank you. I know there's not many outlets that where you can speak these days, but you're welcome here. You take care of yourself.
Mark, thank you so much for covering this from the beginning with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. Or we wouldn't know fully what the hell's going on here, and it's not pretty.